basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, Iona College. We're back with Lights Out Sports, our final segment of the day, our fantasy sports segment. And guys, we just started this last week. It's really very interesting. We decided we're going to talk about Week 2 in the NFL, who we think you guys should sit and who you should play coming into Week 2. And guys, right off the back, one player that I see that a lot of leagues should sit, I know he's a top pick, Andrew Luck versus the New York Jets. I just see the Jets defense, the way they stepped up versus the Browns. I see them stepping up big time against Luck. We saw the trouble Andrew Luck went through versus the Bills last weekend. And the Jets, it's same kind of defense, might be even a better secondary, and you got to be worried. T.Y. Hilton's out for Luck. He has to rely on Andre Johnson and Frank Gore the whole game. So you kind of wonder, yes, Andrew Luck might not be the answer for this week for fantasy points.
You know who I would say sit him, believe it or not, than the guy's ever been sit in a week in his career when it comes to fantasy, but Peyton Manning. Sit him.
Wow.
Playing in Arrowhead against Kansas City, the guy didn't even throw for a touchdown last week. Mm-hmm. His age is starting to catch up with him. This Bronco offense is really struggling. Sit Peyton Manning.
And we're seeing, Armand, based from what we saw last season, kind of the fall off of Peyton Manning from last season. And
the last 5 weeks, he was horrible.
I see kind of him being replaced, him being benched later on in this season.
Well, for Brock Osweiler.
If he can't produce, we're going to be seeing that. And
Brock Osweiler is nice. Terrence, who you saying, Terrence?
Also, judging off of yesterday's game, I don't know if you want to say Adrian Peterson, but judging from yesterday, his performance was,
Well, Rob made a good point. He didn't have the amount of attempts to, put any numbers up. They're playing Detroit next week.
But Adrian Peterson, he was in most fantasy, he was either number 1 or number 2 picked on in fantasy, and I know he didn't put up that many points for people.
Yeah, but he's making his home debut in Minnesota. I think he's gonna have a big game.
And I think,
especially after putting up only 3 points for a whole Minnesota offense, they're gonna need to put up some numbers.
Guys, now we look at players you should play this week. I'm going right now with the St. Louis Rams quarterback, Nick Foles. He really stepped it up versus Seattle. Wasn't really throwing that many touchdowns, but he was very consistent throughout the game. Now he's taking on the Redskins. Should be a huge blowout, especially the way St. Louis's defense plays. They have a running game established. You could be seeing him throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns come Sunday. Armand, who are you playing this week?
Any position or
any position?
Honestly, I like Brandon Cooks for New Orleans. You're going against Tampa Bay. They just gave up 42 points to Tennessee Titans. A rookie quarterback at Mariota is good, but this team they won 2 games last year. They have no offense. They have no anything. You have 42 points to them. What are you going to do when Drew Brees comes into the Superdome? And with an outstanding wideout like Brandon Cooks is going to have over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Start Brandon Cooks.
Terrence, anybody in particular you would like to start this week?
Obviously Antonio Brown, especially after I saw Ian killed me with him, and I picked him up for DraftKings.
Antonio Brown.
Yes.
Playing San Francisco.
I don't care. He killed me in fantasy. Picked him up for DraftKings.
Yeah, but everyone starts. No, you gotta do something that's unexpected, Terrence.
Unexpected.
Can't just say Antonio Brown. Obviously, everyone's gonna start Antonio Brown.
You never know.
He said Nick Foles, who is an average quarterback. I said Brandon Cooks is a young wide receiver. Give me someone under your radar, Terrence.
Judging by my fantasy team.
Terrence, it's not for your fantasy team. It's matchups, Terrence. Give me some.
And Armand, even looking at players that you should throw in this week, Golden Tate should have a big impact.
Oh my God, Rob! He didn't even have a reception last week.
No, I have Golden Tate. No, don't do it to yourself. No.
Yes, you do throw Golden Tate.
No,
you're playing Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings don't have the greatest secondary. So
you know who else I like? I like Chris Ivory again. Chris Ivory put up monstrous numbers week 1. Why can't he do it again against Indianapolis' porous front 7?
Mm-hmm. He should
be able to put up 22 fantasy points.
Defense.
He'll definitely get a couple red zone touchdowns. He should have 75 rushing yards and a couple receptions. Why not?
He put up 23 last game.
You know who else is a good pick too? Obviously most people probably have him. Matt Ryan playing against the New York Giants defense. Who's going to stop Julio Jones? Who is going to stop him?
But look at it also. He did have 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on Monday, so that's only.
Yeah, but I think in most leagues you only lose a point. Mm-hmm. I know on DraftKings you only lose a point for an interception, so it's not that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Julio Jones is due for another big week this week.
Yeah.
Especially with the Giants secondaries.
I got a question for you. What about, do you think Marcus Mariota brings in his fantasy value again this week? Or do you think it was just a...
I don't. I think it's just a one-and-done week. He played Tampa, a very weak defense. Now you have to go in versus Cleveland. you have Hyden at cornerback, I want to see how Mariota is going to get to his number one all that week. I mean, yeah, you know what? He did throw for 4 touchdowns, but I see this being as the week to tell whether you want to pick him up in fantasy or whether he's going to be a guy you pick up once in a while come fantasy time.
Terrence, speak.
What? You asking me?
Oh, yes, I'm asking you.
Oh, so now you're asking me.
Oh, I asked Rob, now I ask you. All right,
right.
let me ask you first next time, and I'll ask Rob second.
Yes.
Oh. All right, Terrence, what about Marcus Mariota? Do you think he's going to bring in his same value next week?
Who are they facing next week?
Cleveland, in Cleveland.
Oh, I obviously think they should against Cleveland with zero defense. So I don't see
What? This defense is not that bad.
Cleveland.
They were one of
I
the
guess
top 10 statistical defenses last year.
Clearly, the Jets just ran.
Well, yeah, the Jets, because the Jets came out with a lot of firepower. I mean, the Jets played a great game. I'm saying, do you think Mariota's going to do that same thing?
I don't see why he can't though.
All right, thank you. That's
what I was trying to say. I don't see why he can't though.
All right, so guys, that was your weekly fantasy football update. We're going to be doing it all year, who to play and who to sit. This is it for Lights Out Sports. I'm your host, Rob Boncardo.
I'm Armand Mario.
I'm Terrence Taylor.
And you guys have a great day.
You're listening to WICR